My gaze is fixed on the back of the participant whose form has a large number 9 painted on it. AG, thoughts flashed through my mind, your back has always been so far away from me. I've been wanting to catch up with her for so long. Because if I don't, she will. The image of a fragile girl with medium-length loose hair and bangs cut to the eyebrows surfaced before my eyes. Tokyo. Tachikawa. A tall building with a long narrow canvas on which the inscription in large characters is Tachikawa Senior Private School. A school gym where there is either sparring or a regular training fight. My uniform with a big number on the chest and back is the number 10. My name is Takashiro Akira. And I'm in my second year of high school. Make them, Takashiro. The voices of the teammates gathered by us could be heard. Those who were not involved with the ball watched what was happening and did not take their eyes off. Yes, as you could guess, it's basketball. You can't get past me. The guy of the opposing team exclaimed, putting his hands forward. They wear dark shorts in their uniform, and a large number 2 is emblazoned on his chest. I didn't waste a bunch of useless words and knock down my breath, but just acted, deftly bypassing my opponent like a nimble jaguar. Great. I was practically breaking through to the desired finish, and my face was already heavily covered with sweat. The coach watched our sparring and did not take his eyes off us. But I'm careless. As soon as I was overjoyed, having not yet tasted the desired fruit of victory, the ball was immediately knocked out of my power with a deft wave of my hand. Easily selected. Interrupting from the tension, the guy spoke. You're so weak at the end. Akira. This is him, the one I dream of surpassing, but I just leave every time without results. He's just like me in the second year of Hakaijuu High School. AG. I exclaimed after him, and the guy with the number 7 had already rushed away. He deftly jumps up as soon as he reaches our ring and, touching it, throws the ball into the basket. Oh, he did a slam dunk. Exclamations of surprise at what happened are immediately heard. Not bad, AG. His teammates immediately congratulate him. Yes, he is definitely cool. A guy with a shock of curly hair exclaimed, amazed by what had happened. Number 4. He can bring us victory in the competition between schools. Number 8 spoke, rejoicing no less than the previous one. I was just trying to even out my already strained breathing and silently looked at my opponent. He plays for the school's national team and is the mainstay of the team. I'm hardly going to be sitting on the bench. Don't worry, Takashiro. One of the players of my team at number 6 decided to support me. Okay, that's it for today. After a while, the coach exclaimed. Well, if you think about it. It's so stupid. I thought, still thinking about my own. Let's spend these 3 days preparing for the competition. The teacher spoke. The school bell rang, marking the beginning of a break and a school snack. Office 2-1. I'm full. One of my friends held out, leaving only crumbs instead of bento. The next lesson is math, right? Another asked after yawning. By the way, I said while playing PSP, it looks like we will have a school trip to Kyoto this year. How boring. A guy with his hair cut to a square and also not looking up from the game stretched out in response. Damn, the guy sitting on the opposite side of the guy with the square and leaning back in his chair swore, we were already there in high school. I want to go somewhere abroad. A boy with a potty haircut held out and was also playing some kind of game. What century are you living in, Makachan? The guy with the styling snorted like a hedgehog with long needles. Oh, Echidna. It's impossible. Well, maybe I'll win some lottery or something. Makachan dreamed. Yeah, you win. His interlocutor snorted. Hey, the guy with the potty haircut exclaimed, throw me a jehi-jehi, eh? Somehow. I can't get one piece. Okay. The guy with the tousled hair answered. Suddenly my mobile issued a short ringtone. Oh, the message. I opened my cot and immediately stood up abruptly from my seat. The message was from Izawa Miki. The subject is a mystery to you. Content: I found out where I was going on a school trip. Can you guess where? Hint and asterisks. A file is also attached to it. I opened the photo. Miku captured her selfie on it against the background of a metal frame tower. She. Coming to Tokyo? Mentally, I was immediately puzzled. What's there? My friend asked. A smile appeared on my face, and my cheeks immediately turned pinkish. I am glad of this news and it cannot be otherwise. Out of my thoughts, I was abruptly brought back to earth by none other than Hakaijuu. His hand seemed to hit me on the shoulder, almost hanging there. What's wrong with you? He asked immediately. Why are you hiding here, Akira? He exclaimed. Come on, let's go to the afternoon workout. About. His gaze fell on the screen of my phone and, of course, he saw that message. It can't be otherwise, that's for sure. A message from Miku? Yeah, I got it too. She must be very worried. Go back to Tokyo for a tour, huh? He chuckled, smiling. Seriously, she's lived here for so many years. You two are very close, aren't you? Asked my friend with a comb under hedgehog needles. Almost like brothers? The boy from the square grinned. What? He immediately protested, refuting their stupid guesses. Nothing like that. Quite the opposite. Rather than a brother, AG said. Hey. My humble servant? It's been like that since childhood. But after all. A friend began with a comb under a hedgehog. Both of you. He paid attention to our wrists because both of them have the same things on the wrists of their left hands. Wear the same wristbands, right? Oh, my friend sighed in disappointment, just don't tell me that you are. Nothing like that. I immediately exclaimed, not giving voice to a stupid offensive guess. It's just something we got from someone. And, of course, IG said, blushing slightly, I can't help but wear a gift from Miku. But the fact that she gave us the same ones should mean something? Well, she's a little spontaneous. I said, deciding to justify such an act of a friend. She's always been like this. Yes, Kudo IG agreed, looking at his cell phone. I know she didn't mean anything bad by it, but still. It looks like the three of us are like one for her. He said. The message on his cell phone screen was like, we'll come the day after tomorrow. The three of us should meet if there is time, smiling smiley face and signature. Hey. A girly voice rang out from the site outside of my field of vision. I immediately looked around. I exclaimed, startled by a classmate who suddenly appeared. At the same time, it stands almost close. God, a little more and my heart is in my heels. This is Shirasaki now. So close. Which one? Well. I'd like to pass. The girl muttered, voicing the reason for such a sudden finding so close. Sorry. I said and immediately walked away, letting her pass on. Who is this? IG asked, looking after her. The girls in your class are so creepy. What are you? I said in response. You need to know at least the members of the student council, AG. She has an unapproachable aura of some kind. I muttered. But she's still popular. A held out AG in response. Is that why you're so red? He grinned. I'm not red at all. I immediately exclaimed, defending my honor. A spacious school gym and only 2 souls are present here at such a time. I was surprised to see. No one. Except for me and AG. Only we came to the afternoon training? Well, my friend chuckled, then we were given a lot of space, so everything is fine. Let's go one-on-one? I suggested, leaving my cell phone on the bench. He's safer there. Watch out. There was an immediate response to my proposal. I'll give you a head start, AG snorted, Mr. Bench. Don't be so cocky, I snorted back immediately, I'm sure I'll win. Oh, you came too. The coach stretched out, going into the gym. Great. Coach, is something wrong? I decided to ask right away. Tanaka caught the flu. The coach spoke. It seems that he will not have time to recover by the competition. Therefore. Takashiro. You will replace Tanaka at the competition. The coach immediately stunned me with his sudden news. She's like a bolt from the blue. That's all I could answer right there, digesting what I had just heard. We'll discuss all the details after class. The coach spoke, hiding behind the door and hurrying about his business. See you. I just said again, looking down at the floor. You did it, Akira. AG exclaimed and immediately slapped my ass. You don't think this is a gift from heaven for you, do you? My friend grinned. You've finally been judged on your merits. Come on, rejoice already. He would not let up, while I silently rejoiced and could not believe it in any way. Yeah. I stammered in response. And now we have to give it our all. AG spoke without quieting his ardor. Our battle has already begun. Our battle? I was immediately puzzled. We have to score as many points as possible in the upcoming competition. And then confess to Mick. He exclaimed at the end. What? I was immediately taken aback when I heard his statement, and my heart immediately started beating like crazy. You don't have to be shy anymore. My friend said, chuckling. We fell in love with her when we were kids. And when she moved 2 years ago. AG was remembering a moment of the past. We were never able to confess to her. But if we delay any longer, some stupid redneck will get ahead of us. That's why, Akira. From now on. He said and held out his hand to me. You and I are rivals. All right. I began to think, digesting what he had just said. That back I've been chasing all along. I finally caught up with her. I immediately extended my palm to him in order to shake hands and thereby conclude a kind of deal. I won't lose to you, AG. I said resolutely right there and smiled. He also smiled back at me, without taking his eyes off me. Then let's start our fight. He exclaimed, but I immediately suspended his readiness. I'm after the ball, wait a bit. I ducked into the gym's warehouse and immediately closed the door behind me. I took a deep breath and immediately exhaled, gathering my thoughts about what had happened. We don't want to be who we were back then. The image of the forgotten rose before my eyes. Crying me, perky Miku and IG with a figurine in her hand. From now on, our future will change. I was determined. All of a sudden, everything started shaking. Everything was similar to an earthquake, which is usually not new in Japan. An earthquake? I was immediately puzzled, trying to stand on my own 2 feet. So strong. Twisted sports mattresses fell. Small lockers with sports equipment, too. So are wooden boxes also with sports equipment. I was crushed by one of these narrow lockers, and its contents began to lie around the perimeter of the floor. After a while, I moved my hand, moving away from a short blackout. Blood was flowing from my temple, blocking my visibility in one eye. Painfully. I mumbled, breathing heavily. I tried to focus on what I was seeing, but the picture was floating in front of my eyes. I didn't understand, having forgotten what happened not so long ago. Where? Is that me? I thought. So. I went to the pantry to get the ball. I began to reason mentally, remembering what happened recently. And then. Earthquake. Breathing heavily, I began to try to get out from under the cabinet, which fell on me when shaking. Damn. This closet. I cursed inwardly. It was the first time I lost consciousness. I wonder how long I've been lying here? I heard a sound coming from the gym, but I couldn't hear it through the half-open door for sure. I was finally able to open the second eye, which got blood oozing from the temple. Sound. I asked mentally and crawled closer to the crack. I looked into the gap. And I saw the hand. AG? I immediately thought to myself as soon as I saw the familiar wristband. But in the next second, it was like being doused with cold water from a bucket. I saw that the hand of my once familiar friend was torn off. Blood was oozing from the severed end, and the sound from a distance was more like a slurping. I was immediately thrown back and fell on a soft spot. The silence that filled the pantry rang in my head. Eh? I was stunned by what I saw, and my body seemed to be shackled for some time from the horror I experienced. For a while I was still looking at the door from a distance. But then I swallowed nervously and gathered my strength in order to crawl back to the crack. I looked in there again, still listening to the slurping. Here it is, the severed arm of my friend, and further from it there is blood smeared on the floor. I looked up a little higher and saw an alien monster. It has several branches, eyes, paws. What? I said it in my mind. I immediately swished the pantry door shut. What the? I asked mentally, already hearing some twitching outside the room. What was that thing there? I panicked mentally, blocking the door with a metal basket on wheels with sports basketball balls. I strained, holding the basket that was propping up the door, but along with the beating of my heart, I heard a twitch behind the door. Suddenly, powerful blows began to rain down on the surface of the door from that side, which made me feel a bit of the strength of that monster while I was trying to hold the basket in the right place for me. What is this? I panicked mentally, still putting all my strength. Damn it. Suddenly the blows abruptly stopped and it became quite quiet. My legs were still trembling treacherously after the experience, but my breathing became rapid and I could not even it out in any way. After a while, having piled everything possible on the door, thereby barricading myself as much as possible, I huddled in a corner and pressed my knees to my body. This thing. Chaotic thoughts were rushing in my head after the incident. Is it from our world at all? And that hand? Before my eyes, the image that I saw my friend's severed hand in a pool of blood seemed to resurface. It belongs to me. No, that's not possible. It's just that the wristband is similar. It has to be someone else. Because AG can't die like this. Having calmed down a little, I decided to look outside the room again and slightly open the door. But I can't sit here forever. I thought. Suddenly I caught sight of a mobile phone, sparkling in the darkness of the gym. It looks like this. I began to look closely. Right there, my phone. I closed my eyes and gritted my teeth, immediately decided. I'll just quietly take it and rush to the door. It will take less than 10 seconds. I have to do this. Still, he dared and immediately jerked towards the means of communication. Took. I grabbed my mobile phone with a sharp movement right there on the fly. When suddenly he immediately began to ring loudly, breaking the oppressive silence. An alarm clock? I was surprised when I opened my phone. What the hell is it right now? Switch off. Switch off. I began to mentally beg, and something suddenly dripped onto the screen of the miracle technique. I raised my head and almost died of fright right there on the spot. This alien monster was hanging right above me and was pulling its paw towards me, covered with some kind of slime. At the end of each pseudo-finger of his paws was a small hole with several rows of microscopic teeth. I certainly didn't want to check them for sharpness. I couldn't even breathe. My breath caught in my chest immediately. I was afraid to blink. I might miss something by blinking once. There was and was not me. His little mouths were hissing and still producing mucus that dripped on top of me. I finally took control of my body and immediately rushed out of the gym, screaming loudly. I was moving away, but the alien creature's limbs were still following me. I got out onto the indoor track connecting the gym and the school, but this something did not think to lag behind me for a moment. Still shouting loudly, I opened the door handle, which is now in front of me, and immediately flew inside, not forgetting to immediately close the barrier for the monster behind me. Some second and the glass immediately flew in a serpentine in different directions. Fortunately, I managed to cover myself with my hands, and it did not cause significant injuries. I immediately rushed away further, and the tentacles became visible through the gaps that opened. It was already hard to breathe, to run and scream at the same time, which immediately caused the breathing to falter. Either because I ran a lot, or I still didn't notice something under my feet. But I stumbled and fell to the floor, hitting my shoulder with gusto and driving on a cold surface. Breathing fast, I immediately looked back to check if that monster was visible. Did this terrible monster keep up with me? About what? I thought about it and turned on the flashlight on my phone. What did I stumble over? I began to drive the flashlight closer to the area where I found the obstacle. And then he was horrified. In front of me lay a body with a cracked skull. More precisely, there was a lower jaw with teeth, the rest was a bloody mess with a tongue on top. I focused the camera on my phone on the overall picture of what was happening after I got up and immediately screamed with all my might. Students of this school once lay in front of me. Someone had a severed head and released intestines, someone had only the lower part of the body present, also with released intestines, someone's leg was torn off. I covered my mouth with my hand and could not restrain my cry from the horror I experienced after seeing with my own eyes. They're all dead. I shouted mentally. Shedding tears, I still noticed some movement to the side of me and looked in that direction right there. But before I could look, I was immediately grabbed by the hand and I almost screamed again, but this time for the whole room. Help me. The guy with glasses howled and he reached for my hand. He is alive. I thought immediately. Are you okay? I immediately exclaimed haltingly in response to him. I can't move my legs. Breathing heavily, the guy muttered. Take a look, please. Maybe something fell on them? Legs? I stammered and immediately pointed my phone at that place with the flashlight turned on. I was horrified by what I saw again. Instead of his other half of the body, there were internal organs and bones. The meat that once covered them was gnawed by an alien creature. The same paws from which I ran away not so long ago came into contact with the insides, and the sound of champing was carried around the room. These small mouths tore off the victim's flesh in small pieces over and over again. I was silent, clenching my teeth, and tears flowed from my eyes again. Hey. I tried to call out to him, but he lost consciousness. No wonder, because he is no longer a tenant. I jerked violently from my seat and immediately ran forward again, mentally cursing. Damn. I stopped abruptly and immediately shone my flashlight ahead. These paws spread out there, too. It's there, too. It flashed through my mind while I was breathing fast. Holding the flashlight in front of me, I decided to run up the stairs, climb to the floor above. What is it? I thought, rushing down the school corridor. Why the hell did this happen? Hakaijuu. The name of a friend began to flash in my head in moments from the past. Here he is alive rushing with the ball at me. So he opened a soda and decided to drink. But his severed arm is lying in front of me. Tears were streaming from my eyes from all the horror and from what had happened. Soon I stopped, almost choking with tears and leaned against a wall. Suddenly the light of my flashlight fell on the console lying alone. And not far from it. Not far from her lies my friend with blood flowing from his mouth. Mako-chan. Even him. I thought, holding my hand over my mouth and choking back tears. I think they are. And then the faces of my other two friends surfaced in my memory, playing PSP so carelessly. Suddenly I heard a sound and turned my head to the once still my class. Desks were smashed here, things and bags were scattered. And there's a pile by the window. Help. It was coming from her. I immediately turned the flashlight in the direction of her and stepped into the territory of my former class. A pile of bloody, lifeless bodies and severed limbs, under the weight of which someone was and barely audibly repeated. Help. Suddenly, eyes became visible from under the pile. A face with a glassy, empty look, and again a replica. Help. I was immediately taken aback and jerked back a little. Something began to crawl out of the pile. Are you okay? I decided to ask haltingly, still lighting up with a flashlight. Can you get out of there? Suddenly, a hunched human figure appeared, whose long hair covered his face. It was Shirasaki now. She was shaking, hugging her shoulders and was covered in blood. That's right. Shirasaki. It flashed through my mind along with the picture of the recent nose-to-nose collision. What a relief. I stammered. You're alive. You were saved. Are you hurt? I immediately asked. Why? She muttered. Why all this happened? She had already shouted and rushed at me like a spirit in children's fairy tales. Why? Why? She kept repeating. Yuki-chan and Sayumi-chan, she shouted, and even Shinohara-chan. They're all dead. Some ridiculous fucking monster killed them. Me. I had to hide. Under their bodies. I can't do it anymore. Can't. She screamed in fear after the incident. For Shirasaki to become like this. I was taken aback, and this thought flashed through my head. Calm down, Shirasaki-san. I still stammered in response to her and grabbed her by the shoulders. I don't know exactly, but it seems that this is not the only one here. Therefore, we need to get out of here as soon as possible. She just sobbed and tears flowed down her cheeks in streams. Yes, I don't want to. She muttered, looking away. I don't want to be here anymore. But suddenly a silhouette of something appeared behind her. It was huge and tall, like a huge earthworm with tentacles. I was again shackled with horror, and I could not even say anything, still holding the girl by the shoulders. It suddenly rushed in our direction, and we just miraculously managed to avoid a collision with it. I grabbed the girl in my arms and shouted. Let's run. And we immediately, without paying attention to anything, ran out into the corridor and ran away. We were running for a while when suddenly a very loud sound filled the building. What is that sound? An acquaintance asked, still crying. Another earthquake? I made a guess and immediately dismissed it. No. Faster. I shouted again and hurried. Sound. He's getting closer. Hey. Shirasaki was surprised. It's almost here. She exclaimed when we reached the box area. Look, there's an exit. I shouted, lighting up the area. Let's run. It's bad. It's bad. She kept repeating, and we were getting closer to the cherished exit. Hurry up. I exclaimed, even though the sound began to drown out our hearing completely, and we began to scream ourselves. It took us some seconds, and we were immediately blown off our feet by the shock wave. Something was either breaking through from the bottom up or falling from the top down, piercing through the floors of the school. We were carried out of the building and dragged along the ground. Alas, it's not very pleasant, and it hurts like hell. Breathing fast, I still said something. You're fine. Can't be. My sentences were cut short not only because of rapid breathing, but also because of an alien huge creature, huge legs, tail and claws, seemed to come out of some kind of black hole. Abysses. From now on, our future will change. An unknown alien creature of terribly huge size appeared in the middle of the school, destroying it along the floors. It made a roar, and a lot of particles of concrete fragments of the building flew in different directions. It has huge limbs, many ribbed appendages like tentacles. The limbs also have a ribbed surface around the perimeter. With each of his movements, not only fragments rise into the air, but also what was present in this or that class furniture, corpses. We shouted at the top of our voices, almost tearing it off. We understood that we had to move and run as fast as we could from the epicenter of events, but it was as if we were shackled by fear and for a while, we could only scream. The semblance of an earthquake began again, and a feeling of pressure appeared. It was necessary to take some action by force, otherwise this machine will definitely flatten us here and remember what our name was. Damn. I swore, starting to get up. Shirasaki, get up. I said in the intervals between swallowing portions of air from excitement. She also got up and we tried to run. But this machine seemed to be heading in the same direction. We turned in the direction of the playground with water on the street, and something really went into the residential area, destroying everything in its path. It's like some kind of jellyfish with 2 pairs of thin-ribbed prehensile tentacles and 2 terrifying limbs. We tried to hide behind the first structure we came across. In our case, it turned out to be a pole. This monster is destroying the city. Breathing fast, I said, observing the current situation. Anyway, we need to get out of here. Now muttered. Wait a second, I said and fished the phone out of my pants. I have to call. Now. My friend stayed at the gym. I mumbled while looking at the phone, but the image of AG popped up in front of my eyes. That he's standing there like he's alive, just hold out his hand. And he's still. He may still be alive. Hold out your hand? Tears immediately began to appear in my eyes as the picture of a radiantly smiling acquaintance was abruptly replaced by what I saw in the gym, a torn arm with a lacerated wound and a pool of blood. Damn. I swore. Charging is over. When I stopped thinking, I finally paid attention to the screen. On the black screen of my dead device. Let me call you. Now spoke and took out her phone right there. Why? She was surprised to see something on the screen of her phone. What is it? I asked, not understanding what her question was about. There is no signal. A friend answered. What? Why? I was surprised, not believing my ears. We are still there, it's just something that came to us, so why did the signal disappear? We're in the open. I started too. And then he jerked from his seat, remembering something. Damn it. I swore immediately. I'm going to the gym. Hey. Surprised now, looking after me. These monsters are still in school. She shouted to me and I stopped a little. They'll kill you. I stood on the spot and the pictures of the events that had just happened danced before my eyes again. Piles of scattered corpses with their guts out. Sweat immediately broke out on my face and silence hung. And your friend? The girl muttered. I'm sorry, but. I was silent, but I immediately began to shake from the experience. I clenched my teeth tightly together and tears gushed from my eyes. AG. I thought, and a photo of Miku popped up in my memory. What am I going to tell Mick? What now? Didn't you say, Shirasaki said again, that we need to get out of here? Or have you forgotten? I began to try to calm my tears and, wiping them with the back of my hands, sniffed. You're right. I muttered in response. We're leaving. We turned around and headed away from the destroyed building. Sometime later we can. I started, but we saw something shocking and immediately stopped dead in our tracks. What? I asked aloud. Hey. Shirasaki just said in response. In front of us were houses destroyed in many places. Broken windows. The cars were dented, as if they were not real, but toy cars. On the walls of the houses there were deep long cracks, enveloping the houses like a cobweb. Here and there columns of black smoke rise into the sky. But really? Said now. That giant monster went this way? No, he's gone. I answered, studying the area with my eyes. In the other direction. Shirasaki exclaimed when she saw someone's silhouette in the distance. This is. You are welcome. A very beautiful woman begged crying. Help. To me. As soon as she finished a small phrase, something almost split her from the back and it became visible on the slice of her insides. We stood in mute horror and could not say anything for a while. There was a monster standing behind her. The same alien object, but smaller in size than that whopper, but larger than a person. It is covered with some kind of growths or spores, and at the ends of the forelimbs, there is a kind of bony stingers with swollen networks of veins. Well, or similar. Part of the head and arm of the once talking woman immediately smacked to the ground. The sting cut off like a knife cutting off butter. I didn't hesitate and immediately grabbed my friend by the hand and pulled her away. Away from this place and this monster. Damn. I swore from what I saw here and there along the way. You're kidding me. Someone was lying without an arm and bleeding. Someone without a leg, a bag of groceries was lying next to it, apparently the woman had just bought. The man lies in the same way with half of his head. Here too. I thought, seeing the same tentacles as at school and hearing the screams of people. The same as at school? I exclaimed mentally, without losing the pace of running. Suddenly I noticed how in my opinion a quieter place and without aliens on the perimeter. Here. I exclaimed, breathing fast. To the parking lot. We ducked into the building and immediately hid behind a concrete pillar. I decided to look around right away to see if the monster had followed us. They don't seem to be following us. I told her. But as soon as I looked again at Shirasaki standing next to me, two shadows suddenly appeared behind her back. I immediately jumped back and screamed. "Idiot. Don't yell." One of the people who suddenly appeared cursed. He opened his cot, thereby partially illuminating his face. "We know each other." A tall guy with a square haircut and next to him either a drooping or a little talking guy with curly hair. "This is Tadakoro from the 2nd grade," I finally remembered. I found myself next to a scumbag. It got to me. "Aren't you also from Tachikawa School?" A guy with a square haircut finally asked me a question. "I'm Takashiro, class 2-1. I introduced myself. "Is there anyone else there?" "And?" The guy dissatisfied scat and said. "As I thought, everyone is dead. The phones don't work, no one comes to rescue us, what the hell is going on here?" Suddenly, his attention turned to Shirasaki now. "Hey there." Tadakoro called out. "Are you by any chance the student council president?" "Takashiro, right?" Tadakoro grinned. "So you ran off with the president to have fun? You're out of luck." "What?" I asked again, hearing his pseudo-guesses. "Hello, he has already turned to now. I'm Tadakoro, I'm a little dirty in blood, doesn't that bother you?" Tadakoro suddenly put his hand on the curly-haired boy's head, burying himself in his hair. "And I could only find this jerk. Not sexy at all." He snorted at the end. "How can you think about something like that?" I shouted, trying to protect my friend from their obscene thoughts, "when we can die. And my friends." I wanted to finish. "I'm in the same position." Tadakoro snorted. "I almost died too." My opponent muttered angrily through his teeth. And he immediately decided to tell us the events from his perspective. They were in the school corridor when suddenly the teacher standing in front of their crowd suddenly spoke. "Remember the safety rules during evacuation. Stay calm. The magnitude of this earthquake is 6 points." The teacher continued while Tadakoro and his friends mocked the brunette with curly hair. "Hey, stop it already." One of them spoke. "I cannot." A curly-haired boy stammered and looked down at the floor. "It will be much more fun if you go outside without panties." Tadakoro grinned. "Just like the Great Kanto earthquake." The teacher spoke against a background of the showdown of hooligans. "I thought I was going to die." The curly-haired boy muttered. "Don't worry, we'll cover you." Tadakoro snorted in response and smiled contentedly. Suddenly there was a crash from the side of the street, and many people gathered immediately looked at the window in puzzlement. The alien's paws clung to the glass, which immediately caused cracks. And a lot of small mouths were focused on potential victims and drooling. Some ugly things began to get inside through the windows, Tadakoro continued his story, and everyone died without realizing what had happened. "So are my friends." The curly-haired kid muttered. "Shit." Tadakoro cursed loudly and kicked the curly-haired guy who was standing next to him. "Why did you survive out of all of them? You should have died first." The guy sobbed, withstanding the attacks of the bully, and spoke. "Stop. Enough of Tadakoro." I exclaimed, rushing in their direction so that they would stop. "Now is not the time. I'm sick of you already." Tadakoro snorted in response. We roosted at each other, not taking our eyes off each other. Now did not take her eyes off us, while the silence was broken by the howling of a curly-haired boy. "I want to go home," he whined, not stopping the flow of his tears. "If you want to go home, go alone." Tadakoro snorted in response. "Wait." Suddenly Now spoke and came forward. "In such a situation, wouldn't it be better for us to unite?" she suggested more calmly. "To begin with, we should check our houses so that there is a place to hide." "Wow," Tadakoro snorted. "The president is serious in any situation." "My house," the sobbing kid exclaimed while still crying. "Only 10 minutes from here." "Shirasaki," I said, looking at the bully. "Merging with this object is not possible." "Eh?" The bully was surprised. "Do you want to die? You too already." I was about to say something to Noah when suddenly an unbearable stench hit us all in the nose. "What is that stink?" I immediately asked, covering my nose. Behind our backs, the bastard who cut up the poor innocent woman finally appeared. This monster is covered with many growths and had many eyes. He has a wide mouth and huge teeth. The smell from him is so terrible that it makes you sick. Suddenly, a boy with a curly shock of hair screamed like a pig. And we didn't have time to turn around, just a glimpse, as the monster immediately swung its cutting sting. We looked back for a brief moment and saw that the transport had knocked the monster over. Soon we reached the house of our newly minted companion. "I think we've lost it." Tadakoro breathed a sigh of relief and immediately turned back to the boy with the curls. "Asshole, let's go into your house already." But there was only silence in response. We looked at him. It was pretty quiet and tense. The situation was heating up. An alien? Tadakoro was puzzled by what happened not so long ago. Shit, what kind of monster was that? We just kept silent, leaving the question unanswered. Suddenly, the guy with curly hair suddenly laughed like a madman. "I haven't had anything good in my life since I was born." He spoke in a conspiratorial tone. "I've been waiting for this day for so long. When the world changes." He was still smiling stupidly and interrupting his speech with laughter. "And all those who bullied or ignored me will die. And finally. This day has come." He exclaimed more loudly. "Everyone but me is dead. God has done retribution." Are you kidding me? I got angry mentally and clenched my teeth with indignation. Only I started playing in the main squad. Just got on the same level with AG. It was the beginning of a new life. I decided mentally. I never wanted what is happening now. Suddenly, the impending silence was broken by the fact that the bully pushed the boy hard, who had a notable roof, and he flew off. "If it's true." Tadakoro spoke, coming closer to the boy. "So I'm going to die for your divine retribution, too?" He said and clenched his teeth in indignation. Suddenly, the guy with curly hair grinned and looked up at the bully. "Did you just get it? You're next. Look." The boy shouted sharply and pointed to the side. Tadakoro immediately looked there, but saw nothing. "What are you talking about?" Taking advantage of the fact that the bully was distracted, Curly immediately ran away. "Hey!" Only Tadakoro shouted after him. "Wait a damn." Curly disappeared behind the door, snapping the lock behind him immediately. Tadakoro pulled the handle a couple of times, but it wouldn't budge in response. "That idiot locked himself in," he exclaimed, angry. "What?" I was surprised at this turn of events. "But what should we do now?" We suddenly heard a noise behind us. Now and I went closer to the balcony to make sure it was a danger or something else. "That sound?" Now asked. "We're on the 4th floor." I muttered, not believing my guesses that it could be. "This can't be happening." Suddenly, one of the stingers of that terrible monster that chased us before caught on the balcony. Just a couple of seconds and a huge open mouth appeared in front of our faces. "I'm going to die." A thought flashed through my head, and my body was frozen with fear. But suddenly a familiar paw appeared on the horizon. The monster that chased us for a while was attacked by a similar one that now lives in the school and feeds on the meat of schoolchildren. This monster embraced the first one in his embrace. He looks something like a centipede, no other way. "It's the same thing from school." The bully spoke, standing still and watching what was happening. "Why? They're fighting each other." I decided to assume with horror. "For us? Shit. Shit." Tadakoro came to his senses and hurried away. "To the elevator, quickly. Be careful." Now exclaimed, from which we immediately break down apparently on time. "They're coming this way." Because of the turn where we were just in a hurry, a monster with tentacles rolled out like a ball. It straightened up and looked exactly like a centipede, but with strange paws, a huge body. Yes, in principle, it is terribly strange for a centipede. Especially her bulging eye. Suddenly, his mouth opened, spraying drool in different directions. She was like a flower. A terrible flower with terrible petals, inside which the bodies of the victims could be seen, which the monster still had not digested. "Flower, and you don't know how to lure victims to you." Together with Tadakoro, we immediately shouted in one voice, seeing the corroded faces of our classmates and acquaintances once, and immediately ran towards Now. "Up the stairs!" she exclaimed and hurried forward. "That damn fool hid alone." The bully was still indignant as we descended the flight. "I'll kill him. He's almost got us." I thought without losing the pace of running. If it wasn't for Shirasaki. Suddenly, the tentacles of an alien appeared suddenly in front of us, and we immediately stopped abruptly. "One more!" Tadakoro exclaimed, noticing something. "How many are there?" We changed the route again and finally left the ill-fated building. After running a little further, I looked back. "What? Are they not different monsters?" I was surprised. "He's alone," I exclaimed when I saw the scale of this millipede, which seized the building in its power. One of his paws broke through the glass of one of the apartments, and the monster launched them inside, like honey thrusting a paw into a hive in order to get sweet honey. From such manipulations of the monster, many fragments flew at us. "Watch out!" Tadakoro exclaimed, and Now screamed. We sat down as if on command and covered our heads with our hands right there. Suddenly, something round flew out of one of the windows. More precisely, the monster got rid of it safely. It fell right in front of me and bounced off like a ball, leaving a bloody blob on the ground. I was surprised, and the bully and I immediately drew attention to the subject. Prick. Tadakoro muttered. It was the head of that curly-haired kid who locked himself in, leaving us to fend for ourselves. His head had been torn out with part of his spinal cord, and a piece of glass was sticking out of one eye. Shit. The hooligan exclaimed when he saw all the horror and now screamed from what she saw. Somebody save us. Tadakoro continued to yell. Damn. We were running past houses, but suddenly, through the remains of a broken window, I saw a TV still working and immediately stopped. We continue the news release. They talked in the box as if nothing had ever happened. What's there? They asked me while I was dumbfounded looking at the screen with pictures. What are they saying? Now asked. The dog bit a man and a woman. The presenter spoke calmly. A woman with a square haircut, against which a line with the current news appeared. 2 were bitten by a dog. Their lives are out of danger, she said, and the picture on the box changed. The owner turned out to be a resident of the house. Bitten? I was indignant when I heard this. What the hell? There are hundreds of dead here. She was indignant. What's with this news? Unbelievable. Shirasaki muttered. They don't know anything yet? What are you doing? Tadakoro, who had just come up, exclaimed. I'm leaving here. He shifted his gaze to me and then to the object of my indignation. TV? Did they find out anything about these monsters? He asked me right there. No. I muttered. They didn't talk about them at all. What? Tadakoro was indignant. But why? Yes, look at the city. What the hell are the police doing right now? He said, taking out his phone. Shit. He cursed immediately. Still no signal. I have the same thing. Now spoke, looking at the screen of her phone. Takashiro. The bully addressed me. And in your phone? My battery is dead. I informed him. You're useless. He chuckled and threw me a power bank. Take it, I'll lend it to you. He said. Charge your cell phone, faster. I quickly attached a portable battery, and my phone immediately came to life. I knew there was no signal. But I saw the icon of a new message. It was from Miku. It was sent at noon. There were no monsters back then. I was horrified when I saw the text of the message. Did you guess that it was the Tokyo Tower? Haha. We have just arrived at Tachikawa Station. Today we have a free day, so I'll leave my friends and come alone. I read the line above again. We have just arrived at Tachikawa Station. Miku. In the city. Terrible news has reached me.